So, friend.
Friend.
So my new phrase is "that's dope and that's deep." So you told me
Dope
something.
and deep. Yes. Those boundaries up again, those expectations to say this is not a trade-off thing where if, for me, if this is not working right, I can accept this because this part of it is working right.
Mm.
But to be able to say to yourself, you know what, I'm okay with not having this for the sake of my peace, for the sake of my tranquility, for the sake of my serene, for the sake of my happiness.
Yeah, I think that you brought it like a really good point because I think I heard hidden in there was the thing that TD Jakes kind of talk about, that 80-20 rule of like, hey, if 80% is good, you know what I'm saying? Like something about another part might not be right. But here's the thing about that. So yes, in some things, there's really good parts of it and then there's not so great parts of it. But if the not so great parts actually touch on what your core values are, where you are in your life right now, what's going on with you, then you have to evaluate, you know, maybe that 20% of what's happening there. You have to evaluate it because, what is this relationship really doing to you?
No,
How
but if that 20 is so awful, I think about it in terms of yelling. Let's say you grew up with a traumatic childhood and you don't like yelling.
mm-hmm.
That person could not yell at you 80% of the time. They're wonderful. But that 20% where they're yelling at you can be so traumatic for you that you just don't need that in your life. And it's okay because a lot of times you'll hear people say, oh, well, that was such a good person, or it seemed like everything was going great. But you know what you need. And it's going to seem off subject, but for some reason it's brought this up in my mind. And I'm going to say this and you're probably going to laugh at me, but it's okay. So I was thinking, thank God for the ghost. And I'm not talking about the Holy Ghost.
Okay.
What I'm talking about in this ghost is this new concept of ghosting that people are doing to people. And the reason I say, I knew you were going to laugh. The reason I say thank God for
you have this way of thinking about things. I'm like, I never would have. Never would have.
This is a different one right here, okay? But, when I say thank God for the ghost, a lot of times when people ghost people, which is this new thing for those that don't know, where the person just stops contacting you altogether. They stop calling, you don't know what happened. For many of us, we want an explanation. We want to know, what did I do, or what caused this. But when I say thank God for the ghost, what people have to understand is sometimes people are going through their own stuff and you don't need no part of it. And so God is doing something by removing that person. And you should just be thankful. And I know it's hard when you're going through it and you want to understand, like, what did I do wrong or whatever. But I am so grateful that I'm learning to thank God for the ghost. Thank God that people ghosted me. Thank God that, that they're no longer there, because that may have been a relationship that I didn't know how to get out of myself. So the fact that they were removed, and I often pray that in every relationship that I'm in, God, if this person if they mean me no good, if they're not for me, remove them. And so when the ghost happens, I can't then in turn be like, well, what did I do? No, I have to see it as maybe that's God's way of removing that person from my life.
Well, since you brought up the ghost, I realized this is this concept that I have that I don't think that people really talk about a lot. But in any kind of stop or a break or a pause or even ending of any type of relationship, whether that's friend, family, I mean, just any type of thing, I go through a process of what I call grieving the relationship. So even though it's over and, you know, whoever to blame or whatever happened, I actually make it a point to understand how important that person was to me and what place they held. Because especially people you're close to, you speak to them every day. At 12 o'clock, you would have been speaking to them. We would have been eating our sandwich over the phone together or something like that. But I make it a point to grieve the relationship. I don't care what type of relationship it was. I know.
You said something very key that it's a process. And I think whether you're grieving, for a long time about the friendship or what you had, some things can be beautiful. But I think what grieving also allows you to do is to reevaluate and to say, in this next friendship that I have, I can see those things that caused this, or I can see it coming. And then another thing that I think is really good is when you're looking at these friendships that you're starting, that you're stopping, that people are ghosting in, that the timing may have been off. I have had people that I was friends with at an earlier time that it really didn't work out. We were in two different stages of life, whereas we reconnect later and it blossoms into this beautiful friendship. Whether we decided like, okay, look, I worked on me, you worked on you. Now we're both in a better place, and this place is lovely together. And like you said, it's controlling that access to yourself, but still seeing that not all the time is putting it on pause, means ending it. But you can still grieve while it's on pause. You can still grieve and say, you know what? I'm really sad that this friendship had to end because, like you said, I would talk to that person on lunch break, and I remember saying, "Do you hear me crunching?" On the phone and different things, And when that ended, you have to grieve that that is no longer there. But I think that process is so beautiful because the grieving and everything else helps you to analyze and say, okay, this is something that I want in my relationships, and this is something that's a no no, or this is something I need to stay clear of.